Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big tournaments are upcoming in the VALORANT world over the next couple of weekends. Masters, Toronto and the Esports World Cup arriving not too far after that either. And FNS gives his perspective after all of the recent NRG drama on what is going on with these present teams. His predictions from now to the end of the season, certainly for the Americas Stage 2, but also 100T. They did qualify for the World Cup out there in Riyadh, but if it doesn't go to plan, what changes may they look to make? FNS says that Asuna, as far as he's concerned, is the key man under pressure, and he needs to play a little bit better in multiple ways if they want to significantly improve as a team. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty going on yesterday. There was all sorts of tournaments happening, and there were some pretty remarkable plays that we were seeing as well around the world. Now, just to note the kind of timeline here over the next couple of weeks. Pretty much a week from today, Masters Toronto officially gets underway. 12 teams, of course, there in attendance. There are 4 that already have the bye from the various regions, and then, of course, the Swiss stage happens, and we'll see that in detail in a second. Not too far after that, of course, is when we're going to get the World Cup in action as well. So the teams that were top 2 in their region in the relative playoffs, they go to the World Cup. The others were determined in the qualifiers in recent weeks. NRG and 100T, of course, the representatives from the Americas, we'll get into in a second. There was also an interesting bug that was spotted yesterday where, well, and apparently a couple of people were noticing this as well, where if you're in Omen, you can actually like hear footsteps and see where the enemies are in like using dark cover. So yeah, interesting meta breaking potential bug right now. Hopefully that's fixed relatively shortly, because if you can do this during this, teleportation phase, then it gives you rather a competitive advantage. It looks, we're completely no-clipped here. It's probably not fair. I mean, clearly that's got to be fixed relatively soon. Let's talk about these matches though. Certainly what FNS has to say I thought was pretty interesting. Of course, there's been discussions who's going to do well at both the World Cup and Toronto. Of course, a number of teams have qualified for both, some only one over the other. For example, Liquid, they made it to Toronto. They're not going to be able to play with Nats, unfortunately, but they didn't qualify for the World Cup because they were third, didn't get the auto bye, had to play their own tournament, eventually fall short in the end. Carmine Core made it, as we full well know. Now, Sentinels, we talked about Wolves yesterday, and how Wolves are potentially a serious threat to the Sentinels roster. I guess we'll see about that. But they were playing Global Esports. They were down 11-3 in some scrims, so that was kind of notable. We had Paper X down 4-5 to somebody or another, so of course they're getting their scrims in ahead of Toronto. But I wanted to share a couple of clips that FNS had to say on a couple of different topics. We know that his time in the last couple of months has been, well, a challenge to say the least. As he says here, benched VALORANT player at NRG because he decided to come back for the season. Som seemingly convinced him to come back. We know that FNS came out on stream and said that Som had told him, I got you this year, bro, I got you, don't worry, like I'm going to carry you, don't worry about it. Of course, that didn't really go to plan in reality, as we know, and FNS is now off the NRG roster and sitting there on the bench, and it's going to be all things said and done for his career more than likely. But it's been good to see him back on the watch parties, and he's still got the respect from the community, no doubt about that. But NRG, they replaced him, they made that difficult decision. Ethan's now taken over as the in-game leader. They've brought in Scuba to their team as well after the controversial changes they made earlier on. Verno gone, Brock coming in, it's all been happening. But NRG in recent weeks, they qualified for the World Cup, they looked much improved, and FNS says that if that continues, then in stage 2 of the Americas, they will be a serious force. But what other team are you going to throw into that conversation, right? Like, who's going to come top 4 at next season's stage for the Americas? Okay, you're not going to be able to look past Sentinels or G2. They're the number 2 teams in the Americas for a good reason right now. You're going to look at NRG, understandably so. They just qualified impressively for the World Cup, but, who's going to be the other team? Could it be MIBR? Could it be another team that improves drastically? Or could it be Evil Geniuses? Or even potentially 100 Thieves? 100T are the key team to look at, I think, because, they're having success in other esports right now. Their Call of Duty team is crushing it. But in VALORANT, for many years, okay, last year they got the result in the Americas, but internationally they have been struggling, and they've not been able to quite get over that next level, it seems, as a team right now. FNS has some thoughts on that and why they've been falling short.
On just a 1-year contract, I highly doubt that. I very, very highly doubt. He's only 1 year signed, but I could be wrong. You think 100 Thieves should have gotten Ye when they had the chance? Hindsight, bro. 100 Thieves has has a good roster. Asuna and Boostio just have to play better. Honestly, like if I'm being as blunt as I possibly can, they gotta have all 5 people like playing well. And if they do, then they're alright. They gotta have all 5 people like in form to like be able to win tournaments. Easier said than done. Like they love the way Asuna plays, and I don't blame them. Like Asuna is by far the easiest player to defend when he's on your team, okay? Like that is just a fact. Because he's so selfless and he'll just run it down. But there has to be limits to how much he does it. There just has to be limits. You can't just run it down. You can't just do one thing only and just have that one style of play. What 4 teams do you think will be top Americas after the next split? Sen G2, it's really hard not to favor them. I think they'll be at the top for sure. I honestly, no cope, believe if this NRG can do what they've been doing and keep this form. I mean, that's obvious though. I think NRG will be able to maintain their form and get at least 4th place. 3rd, again, hard not to put MIBR. I think it's going to be stayed pretty much the same for Americas. I think it's going to stay the same for Americas. Plus NRG minus whoever. I think it's going to be, so I guess plus NRG minus 100 Thieves in this category. I think it's going to be Sen, G2, MIBR, and NRG. Top 4 next split. I think EG will fight NRG out of 4th. It's possible. It is possible. We haven't seen that matchup yet. It just depends, bro. It depends on the matchups they get. Oh, Cloud9 is also, look, I know I've given Cloud9 a lot of but C9 can also make a run. They just need to get past that hump. I think EG and Cloud9 are dark horses to take that 4th spot away.
So in the end, of course, 100T did qualify for the Esports World Cup. They had quite the run. They beat Fury in the first round. They then beat NRG 2-1. Took down Cloud9 to qualify. NRG then made the run through lowers. You then got the 100T EG match, which they won. NRG, though, got their revenge on 100T to beat them 3-1. And then 100T, of course, famously pulled off that reverse sweep, losing the Icebox, losing the split, and then winning 3 straight Haven, Ascent, and Pearl to go on to win the series. So 100T, they qualified, and they deserve credit, of course, for doing so. And they will be out there in Riyadh, the main event, as we know. Of course, all these things are to be determined. The winner is going to walk home with $500,000, and these are the 12 teams that are going to be there in attendance. 100T, of course, being among them, qualifying through the Americas qualifier. So where do we go though here from Thieves? Because as a roster, they've played relatively well recently, but their results still don't quite meet the eye test on paper. Of course, look, they lost Bang. Bang went to Centaurs. They got Xander instead. I rate Cryo very highly. I rate EU. I think he's solid. Boostio could be better at times, sure, but I do think that understandably the player under a lot of pressure for 100T for years has been Asuna, right? Because, yeah, he plays the game as FNS describes in a selfless way. He's very easy to defend for teammates to say, well, he's doing what it takes for us to win. And to be fair, it's not like his numbers have been like terrible, but his numbers haven't been great for like the level of player that he maybe should be. I think there are questions on that, and as FNS believes, Asuna doesn't always just run it down, but his opinion is that the way that Asuna plays is so selfless that sometimes it actually gives away too much advantage to the other team. Of course, Boostio individually could well play better as well when they did lose this series to NRG. Boostio had a rough time, but so did Asuna, right? Like, those were the 2 players that were notable for having a very challenging series. We know what Cryo's capable of. I think Xander's starting to come into form in the second half of the season. EU's very impressive as well. And look, maybe this team is just never going to be good enough to win an international tournament. Fair enough. But they've now qualified for one again in Riyadh, and they will want to go as far as they can. And FNS believes that to get to that next level, either those guys have to play better or something has to give. Because at the end of the day, what is the intention for 100T? It's to win international tournaments, right? Especially when you've got NRG starting to make some strides as of late. You've got to think that that's a key, the key driving force behind their team will be to do exactly that. And right now, they're potentially still a couple of steps behind, but we're going to see in Riyadh what that looks like. Of course, they've got plenty of time until then, because that's pretty much this time next month. The main event starts on the 8th of July through to the 13th of July, which is a couple of weeks after Masters Toronto concludes, which starts rather shortly. So, the 6th of June is 5 days or so time, 6 days time. That's when everything gets underway in Toronto. These, of course, are the teams in the Swiss stage. The first game is going to be Heretics Paper Rex. That kicks off the tournament in just over 6 days time. So that's what it looks like in that region. And, well, for all the teams, let's say, in the Americas out there for Toronto. A couple of other things to close out with, some Scrimbux for you all. RRQ up 70-6 on seemingly the ex-Mongols team. So pretty interesting. We saw lots of the Chinese rosters giving their perspective on RRQ, whether they're actually really that good, whether they're not going to be quite as good coming to Toronto. It's definitely one of the key storylines, though. A team like RRQ getting a bye in the bracket is a mega story, and congratulations to them for achieving it. PaperX up 14-6. Don't know who they're playing, but they're getting some good practice in. We had Sentinels. They were scrimming Cloud9 up 7-3 in this one. So definitely getting some good work in before the start of the season. And just wanted to share this as well real quick. This is VCT Scrim's tier list going into the event, which is certainly interesting. I wouldn't have predicted this one, but you know, what do you guys think about it in the comments below? Fnatic Heretics, Gen.G, Liquid. Don't know about that one. Okay, maybe with Nats. You could maybe argue it if you think EMEA is the best region ever. XLG, Sen, G2. You know, I don't think these teams will be this low. RRQ, Wolves, MRBR, PaperX, PLG. So, yeah, there you go. Controversial, to say the least. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.